Rain lashed the asphalt, blurring the small town lights of Willow Ridge, Oregon. At a corner diner, a little girl lifted her sleeve, revealing bruises no child should bear. One Hell's Angel froze mid-sip, coffee forgotten. Time split before and after. That morning would change everything for everyone. Before we start this story, tell us where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel and give a hype to this video. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. The diner's neon buzzed faintly against the stormy morning. Leather boots tapped across the wet floor as Marcy ate, slid onto a stool by the counter, clutching her backpack like a shield. Her eyes darted nervously toward the door, where the wind rattled the glass, carrying the scent of rain and gasoline. A man in a black vest, patched with the red and white Hell's Angel emblem, nursed his coffee 2 stools down. His face was weathered, jaw tight, eyes scanning the room with a practiced detachment. Marcy's stepfather's handprint still burned on her forearm beneath the faded sleeve of her sweater. Hesitating only a heartbeat, she rolled up her sleeve, exposing the marks. Silence thickened the air. The biker froze, the cup halfway to his lips, recognizing every pattern, every bruise, reminders of pain he'd seen, endured, and vowed never to ignore again. The clatter of the diner, plates, silverware, murmurs faded. Only the girl's trembling arm and the man's steady gaze remained, an unspoken promise forming in the space between them. He was called Colt Matthews, 45, 6'2", and built like the highways he roamed. Colt's years in the Angels had taught him to read fear, sorrow, and lies like a map. The diner's waitress, an older woman named Tess, hovered nearby, sensing the tension. She'd learned not to interfere with the storm brewing in front of her counter, only to observe quietly. "Are you okay, honey?" Tess's voice trembled softly. Marcy shook her head, a silent plea for protection she could not voice aloud. Colt's eyes softened, his hardened exterior cracking under a weight he could not ignore. He set his cup down, untouched. Coffee was trivial. The storm outside intensified, drumming against the windows, as if nature itself conspired to echo the turmoil inside. Colt's leather gloves flexed, fingers brushing against the worn patches on his vest. He leaned closer, voice low but steady, a lifeline through the fear. "No one's going to hurt you here," he said, his tone not just promise but warning. A single nod from Marcy affirmed the fragile trust forming. Outside, motorcycles rumbled faintly in the distance like distant thunder, though none had arrived yet. Colt scanned the diner, noting the exit routes, the stepfather's likely paths, the impossibility of letting this slide. Every instinct screamed, "Act now, protect now." Marcy spoke, voice trembling. "Please, don't tell him I showed you." Colt shook his head slowly, letting her words sink into the quiet corner of the room. He understood fear like this. He had worn it, inhaled it, swallowed it. The girl did not deserve it, not now. Not ever. He motioned for Tess to keep an eye on the door. The world beyond those windows could wait. Colt's mind raced. Who else needed to know? Who could help? How fast could they move? A plan began to form, precise as the lines on a highway map. Outside, the rain slowed slightly, but the tension inside thickened. One small girl, a room full of innocence, and a biker who refused to finish his coffee, an alliance forged in a heartbeat. The bell above the diner door jingled, a small, inconsequential sound that felt monumental in that charged air. Bill turned slightly, seeing nothing but the wet parking lot. Yet he knew there were eyes watching, timing, calculating. Marcy's wide eyes followed his movements. "You're safe for now," Colt murmured, voice steady, grounded. "I need you to listen carefully." He leaned down, ensuring his presence was both protective and reassuring. Every muscle in his body remained coiled, ready to spring into action at the faintest signal of danger. Tess quietly slid a glass of water toward Marcy, a small gesture of comfort. Colt's mind raced. A call, a message, a mobilization. He was not alone. In the Angels, they had a network, a code, a system for protecting the vulnerable. He tapped the phone in his pocket. Silent, discreet, but every contact he could make was already considered. Marcy's fear softened slightly, a flicker of trust in her eyes. The diner, the storm, the bruises, they were all a crucible, and Colt had just decided that the girl would walk out of it alive. Minutes felt like hours. Colt's eyes never left Marcy as he tapped the phone again. The quiet hum of the diner became a soundtrack to tension. The rain pattering outside punctuated each heartbeat. The first responder would arrive soon, a trusted angel who knew the code, the urgency, the stakes. "You don't have to speak," Colt said softly. "Just stay with me." "We'll fix this." Marcy nodded, clutching her sleeve. The bruises a silent testament to horrors no child should know. Colt's thoughts drifted briefly, memories of his own past. Streets, fists, broken promises, moments that had forged the man before her. The sound of distant engines broke the monotony. A convoy of black leather and chrome would arrive in minutes, a silent army for justice, for protection. Colt set his jaw, adjusting his vest. Today wasn't about violence, it was about presence, loyalty, unwavering resolve. Outside, the storm's first rays pierced the clouds, glinting off puddles like scattered diamonds. Inside, a little girl's trust and a biker's code intertwined. The beginning of a story no one would forget. Raymond's hand froze on the doorknob. He swallowed, throat dry, eyes darting to the line of leather and chrome beyond the porch. What's this about?" he managed. Bear stepped forward, shoulders squared, voice low but unyielding. "It's about your stepson, Raymond. About the harm he's endured." The word harm hung in the air, heavier than any threat. Behind Bear, Wrench's eyes never wavered, scanning for escape routes, for weapons, for lies. The boy's small voice trembled behind the screen door. Please don't." Bear's gaze softened for a fraction of a second toward Liam, then hardened. This was no negotiation. Raymond's face paled, lines of arrogance cracking into something else, panic. One foot moved back instinctively. The other remained planted, anchored by the weight of consequence. Tiny's massive frame shifted, blocking the driveway further, subtle but unmistakable. The neighbors watched silently, curtains twitching. Bear exhaled slowly. "You have a choice today. Protect him or we step in. No tricks, no delays. Today it ends." Inside the house, the air smelled of polish and faint cologne, a mask Raymond had built over years. Liam clutched his hoodie, pressed against Dewey like it was armor. Bear crouched beside him, whispering, "You're safe. Not just for now, forever, if it comes to that." Liam's eyes glimmered, a fragile mix of hope and disbelief. Outside, Red and Gage circled like guardians, every footstep echoing purpose. The silence was punctuated by the subtle growl of engines, the unmistakable hum of the Angels, waiting for the word. Raymond's jaw tightened. "You can't." "You don't." Wrench's voice cut through, calm, inexorable. "We do what's right. That's all you need to know." Tiny adjusted, making the presence of muscle undeniable without a word. A neighbor peeked through blinds, witnessing authority unlike any they'd seen. Inside, Liam's tiny fist tightened, unsure whether he could breathe freely or if this moment was just another cruel trick. Bear placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "It's real, buddy. They're here for you. That's the difference between monsters and men." Raymond's defiance faltered under the combined weight of 15 men, decades of discipline, and a silent promise written into every crease of leather. He swallowed hard, stepping back, voice shaky. You can't take him." Bear's eyes locked with his. "Not taking, protecting, making sure you never do it again. You have a chance to do the right thing now. Will you? A tremor passed through Raymond's hands. The veneer of control shattered. Inside, Liam exhaled silently, feeling the first spark of safety. Outside, Tiny shifted. The faint sound of leather brushing chrome, a subtle reminder there is no escape. Wrench stepped forward, shoulders squared, tone unrelenting. We give you the chance. One chance. Choose wisely. The air seemed to thrum, a tension that could snap. Raymond's gaze flicked to the motorcycles, the men, then to his stepson. Curled in fear but slowly lifting his eyes. The choice hung heavy. The next move would define them all. Silence, thick and suffocating, filled the morning. Raymond's voice cracked. I'll get help. I won't hurt him again. Bear didn't blink. We're not leaving until that's verified. You understand? This is not negotiation. This is accountability. Tiny's massive arms folded, a living wall of authority. Red and Gage moved closer to the doorframe. Subtle but unmistakable pressure. Inside, Liam's grip on Dewey loosened slightly, trusting just for a heartbeat that the monsters he feared weren't real. Outside, Wrench's calm gaze surveyed the house, making sure the perimeter held, every exit accounted for, every possible deceit accounted for. Raymond's lip quivered. Sweat traced his temple. I'll call my boss. County office. Bear's hand on the door, firm but not aggressive, interrupted. Today it's you and this boy. No bureaucrats. No excuses. Today the line is drawn. He's protected. That's final. The clarity in Bear's tone erased any doubt. Liam's eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from the impossible relief of being seen, being understood, being safe. Outside, engines idled like a low heartbeat. Each one a promise, a signal, a declaration. Tiny's shadow fell long over the driveway, a silent sentinel. Red and Gage shifted subtly, the coordination of decades honed into instinct. Bear crouched slightly, speaking to Liam in that soft, steady voice. You see all this? This is family, chosen not by blood but by loyalty. They're here to keep you safe. Liam nodded, tiny shoulders trembling but steadier than before. Raymond's stance crumpled. The house that once seemed like a fortress of control now felt like a cage. Every corner observed, every action measured. Wrench placed a hand lightly on Bear's back, signaling readiness to conclude. Bear exhaled, letting a quiet authority settle over the scene. The sun glinted off chrome, catching the edges of leather, every detail sharp, deliberate, cinematic. For Liam, the world had shifted. Safety, not fear, was now the language of this morning. The angels had arrived. And justice, quiet but unyielding, had followed. The first faint siren in the distance didn't faze the angels. They didn't need reinforcements. Their presence alone reshaped the street. Raymond sat on the edge of the porch, defeated, hands trembling. Bear remained calm, every movement deliberate, a living emblem of authority. Tiny's shadow loomed large, silent but unmistakable, while Red and Gage monitored every potential disruption. Liam peeked around Dewey, eyes wide, tracing the polished chrome and leather, finally registering that no one here wanted to hurt him. You're safe, Bear whispered again, voice steady as a drumbeat. Outside, neighbors paused their morning routines, sensing the gravity of the moment. A faint breeze stirred papers on the lawn, but nothing moved in the house except the boy, curling closer to Dewey, absorbing the reassurance radiating from Bear and the angels. For the first time in months, Liam didn't flinch at loud voices. For the first time, the world felt less like a trap and more like a space where protection, not fear, dictated the rules. Raymond finally found his voice, weak and broken. I didn't know what I was doing. Bear didn't flinch. You did. That's why we're here. You'll live with the consequences. Tiny adjusted his stance, exuding silent power, every muscle a warning. Wrench's gaze swept across the room, noting every corner, every potential secret. Liam hugged Dewey tightly, trembling, but a flicker of hope burned in his eyes. Bear crouched, meeting Raymond's gaze without anger, only unwavering certainty. "You'll make this right, or we'll make sure someone else does. No loopholes. No excuses." Outside, the motorcycles hummed like a collective heartbeat. Each engine vibration echoed like a statement. Justice doesn't wait for permission. Raymond nodded weakly, swallowing his pride and fear simultaneously. The lesson was harsh, undeniable and complete. Liam's small hand unclenched, finally letting a sense of relief spread through his body. The angels were more than muscle. They were guardians, reshaping the meaning of family, loyalty, and protection. The quiet hum of engines outside became a rhythm that filled the tense air. Bear signaled Tiny, who stepped slightly forward, reminding Raymond that every action was watched. Inside, Liam leaned into Dewey, listening to the soft cadence of the angels breathing, the low grumble of authority that promised safety. Red and Gage patrolled the edges of the room, not aggressive but present, like shadows ready to enforce any boundary. Raymond's face was pale, sweat tracing thin lines down his temple. I understand," he whispered. Bear's eyes softened just enough to convey clarity, comprehension without mercy. "Good. Understanding is step one. Now you'll follow through. Every word counts." Outside, the sun glinted off chrome like a silent witness. Neighbors peeked cautiously, realizing something profound had unfolded without their intervention. Liam's gaze lifted to Bear, a silent question: "Is it really over?" Bear offered a small nod, steady and calm. The angels had arrived, not for vengeance, but for protection, turning fear into something almost tangible. Almost comforting. Raymond moved mechanically, almost in a trance, picking up the phone to make the calls Bear had demanded. Tiny remained a silent wall, ensuring no impulsive act could disrupt the fragile order. Red and Gage's eyes never wavered from the house corners, their presence both subtle and intimidating. Liam's small hands fidgeted, but he didn't look away. He observed the angels, taking in their precision, their quiet authority. Bear crouched beside him, voice a calm anchor. "See? Everything's okay now. You don't have to be scared anymore." Liam's chest heaved slightly, tears threatening, but he nodded. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of leather and gasoline, a strange perfume of safety. Every neighbor watching silently understood. This was a moment they wouldn't forget. Raymond spoke again, voice breaking but filled with newfound obedience. The angels didn't celebrate, didn't gesture. Their work was visible in the tremor of fear leaving a boy's shoulders, in the silent collapse of a tyrant, in the quiet affirmation that justice could arrive on wheels, engines, and unwavering loyalty. The last call was made. Raymond slumped against the wall, a shadow of his former control. Bear exhaled slowly, scanning Liam with a protective gaze. "You're free to play, explore, live," he whispered. Tiny's stance softened, though his presence still radiated vigilance. Red and Gage lingered near the door, every step calculated, ensuring no threat remained. Liam finally stepped outside, sunlight warming his face, eyes meeting the chrome and leather of the angels. Relief, pure and undiluted, washed over him. The street felt alive again, but under new rules, the rules of protection, loyalty, and chosen family. Engines purred one last time, a low, satisfying rumble that declared victory without words. Bear placed a hand lightly on Liam's shoulder. "You're safe now, buddy." "That's all that matters." The boy's lips quivered in a small smile. The angels had come. Chaos had been met with order, and the morning, once heavy with fear, was now etched with the weight of justice and hope. Bear signaled the angels to mount their bikes. The engines rumbled to life like a controlled storm, vibrating through the street, yet somehow comforting. Liam's eyes widened, watching the choreography of leather jackets, polished chrome, and silent communication. Tiny adjusted his gloves, scanning for threats, while Red and Gage performed subtle sweeps, a protective dance invisible to anyone untrained. Raymond remained slumped, the weight of accountability pressing down, powerless against the presence of the angels. Liam gripped Doey's hand, feeling safety radiate from her and the bikers. The morning sun glinted off helmets and boots, turning fear into a strange, almost cinematic spectacle. A neighbor dared to peek over a fence, catching sight of the scene, and realized that the angels weren't villains, they were guardians. Liam took a tentative step forward, the world now appearing less like a labyrinth of threats and more like a place where courage, loyalty, and chosen family could rewrite reality. Raymond finally lowered his gaze, muttering promises to undo his wrongs, obey the rules Bear had laid out. Tiny didn't speak. His presence alone conveyed authority and consequence. Bear crouched beside Liam one last time, letting the boy absorb the gravity of the protection that had arrived for him. "Remember," Bear said softly, "there's always someone watching out for you. And sometimes they ride on two wheels." Liam nodded, understanding in ways he never had before. Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of engines fading, yet the sense of safety lingered like a warm imprint. The angels began to mount, the choreography of motion smooth, precise. The last glance at Liam was a silent vow he would never be abandoned. Liam hugged Dewey tightly, then allowed himself a breath he hadn't taken in months. The terror that had stalked his life dissipated, leaving a mixture of awe, relief, and hope, the kind only extraordinary intervention can instill. The angels began their slow, controlled departure. Engines thrummed like a heartbeat, leaving a rhythm in the air that promised order over chaos. Tiny gave a slight nod to Bear, who returned it with a small, satisfied grin. Liam's eyes followed the bikes, absorbing every detail. The gleam of chrome, the disciplined movements, the unspoken code of protection. Raymond's posture had collapsed completely, a man defeated not by force, but by a presence stronger than intimidation, the moral and physical authority of the angels. Joy held Liam close, whispering reassurances. Outside, neighbors exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the morning's extraordinary event. Liam lifted his face toward the sunlight, feeling warmth on his cheeks, not just from the sun, but from the knowledge that he was now part of a world where loyalty, courage, and unexpected guardians could reshape his life forever. The last of the motorcycles disappeared around the corner, leaving quiet streets and a renewed sense of normalcy. Liam finally exhaled fully, small shoulders relaxing for the first time in months. Joy guided him inside, eyes scanning for any lingering danger, though none remained. Bear's voice echoed faintly, almost like a memory. "Stay safe, kid, always." Tiny lingered in the background, a sentinel fading into the distance, while Red and Gage ensured the perimeter was clear. Raymond remained on the porch, silent, humbled, aware of the weight of his choices. Liam looked back once, eyes meeting the fading silhouettes of his guardians, and smiled, a pure, unguarded smile. The world, once frightening and oppressive, now held the faint glow of possibility. Fear had been replaced by protection, cruelty had been tempered by justice, and chaos had been replaced by the promise of chosen family. As Liam stepped fully into the house, sunlight spilling across the floor, the room seemed transformed. Shadows no longer carried threats, but became soft reminders of resilience. Joy guided him to the window, letting him watch the quiet street below. In that moment, Liam realized the enormity of what had occurred. His life had been reshaped in a single morning by extraordinary courage, unwavering loyalty, and a team of guardians he could never forget. Raymond, now reduced to a shadow of his former self, slunk inside, defeated but accountable. Outside, the morning settled into calm, yet the memory of roaring engines and leather-clad protectors lingered in the neighborhood's consciousness. Liam hugged Dewey, then placed a small hand over his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of relief and hope. The angels had left, but their impact was permanent. In Willow Creek, justice had a new face, and it rode on two wheels.